Hi, my name is Michele Fabrega. I'm here again with Galen Fous, and we're talking sex. We're talking secret sex and hidden sex.
Yeah, and I'm Galen Fous. I'm going to be going into that topic of what I call the crisis, the epidemic of people leading secret sex lives. You know, kind of an untalked about topic, but one I think is so the elephant in the room kind of situation. It's so huge, nobody's got to focus on it. Or we don't have the right lens, and that's what I want to bring today, a lens that can allow us to look at sexuality in a way that is kind of eye-opening, like we go, oh, really, that is something going on. So that's what I'd like to talk about some today.
Yeah. And I think part of it, I mean, to just name it is, I mean, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry, right? Is what we're talking about. So obviously there's a lot of consumers out there that are consuming this content, creating the content. I mean, I don't even have the numbers, maybe you do, but it's big.
Well, it's humongous. It's staggering the amount of what the focus of, in many cases, of this secret sex life is through the channel of pornography, you know, online porn. And this is the volume of porn being produced and the volume of porn being consumed is astronomical. If you get on a site like Pornhub, they actually have great statistical analysis of their audience and their viewers. So they know it's something like 65 billion viewers, visitors a year. And, you know, that's like millions per hour. And, you know, this is a global number. And so it is a global phenomenon too. And so the internet and porn has opened up this channel to the unconscious sexuality of our sexual fantasies that are being stimulated and actually being replicated. I don't think porn is anything more than what's already going on in the unconscious mind of humans. You know, this is what what the understudied elements are, is this vast territory of human sexuality. So porn represents this vast territory of human sexuality. It's a a pantheon of characters and styles, and from mild to wild and obscene and sedate. You know, it covers everything, and it's unimaginable almost what the range of porn is, the categories that are showing up. So this has given people an opportunity to really open to the breadth of their sexuality on the one hand, but it's also in the cultural context we're in, for most people, it's a secret. It's something that people can't let others know about, not even their most intimate partners in many cases. So this drives then people into secrecy, you know, and this is an epidemic that I was talking about. I think there's an epidemic of people leading secret sex lives. And this is...
I want to pause you for a second, because I think that's the key, because it's like, we're not saying, you know, porn is bad or there should be less porn or whatever. I mean, we're not really making that kind of a statement. It's more about addressing the secrecy, which is, you know, which leads to, like you said before, you know, betrayal and the lies and the hiding and the shame, right? So we're kind of hiding of ourselves rather than being more integrated and more authentic. So it's like, how can we kind of destigmatize, you know, our nature in some way, our sexual nature, and be able to share that with people we're close to, with our intimate partners, so that we can actually enjoy that and express that together in a way that, you know, that is consensual and, you know, positive for the people involved, right?
I think positive is an important word there, because I think what is often prescribed in the case of people leading secret sex lives get busted. And then you have, so before one gets busted, there's this tragic effort of the cover up, this futile effort of, did I erase this? Did I not do that? I mean, a constant mind churning over the fear of getting caught is this is a big part of the problem of the secret sex life, of this personal weight, the burden of the cover up on the person, and then the getting busted. Then it's almost inevitable. Like every week you see a headline of, you know, minister caught, you know, politician busted, sports hero, you know, caught doing this, and you know, it's just this constant. I mean, that's just the tip of the iceberg. What you see in
Right,
the
because it's
media
happening in regular people's
is
homes
every
too. It's
town, every community,
yeah,
this same
yeah,
drama is playing out of the accusation, you know, all because of the secrecy. So the person is
yeah.
vilified and torn down, that the relationship, you know, is ruined and beyond repair in many ways, or there's such a scorn on, you know, so the tail between the legs move in that situation and it's usually around porn or sex workers, that the one who's been caught has been uh, uh, busted for, say.
Mm,
And so the prescription now is sex porn addiction therapy. And I developed an alternative theory that I call sexual integration therapy. And it's a much different approach than the sex porn addiction, which is a basically negative and often very moralistic view
mm,
of that person's sexual behavior and pornography itself. In sexual integration therapy, pornography use, or what I call compulsive use, not addiction. It's not an addiction, it's a compulsive behavior that is the symptom of
mm,
the problem of the lack of that person's integration of their sexuality into their life in an honest way, you
mhm.
know. And
So
so this
you're
is,
trying to help them find a way to not just keep it in the shadows, but bring it out in some way that could be more comfortable for them, more whole, I guess, and also to help them share that with partners that they have or their partner, so that they're not being all secret and hiding and carrying that burden. Is that what you're saying? So you're not trying to vilify it per se. It's like, how can you express this part of yourself?
it is not about vilifying or pathologizing or
Mm,
diagnosing anyone in any way. That's a top down theory, which I think misses what the individual's needs are. You know, the therapist is diagnosing someone as this, and then there's the treatment for that
mm,
diagnosis. It has really nothing to do with the individual. You know, if once they've got the
mm,
diagnosis, you know, it's just, oh, you're an addict, and now you need to take the
mm.
medicine, which is
Uh-huh.
abstinence. Don't, you know, any cut,
Right.
cancel. I mean, it's all these behavioral efforts and stuff, and they're never asking, so but what is your sexuality?
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
do have the right to your sexuality. I know we've had this problem with the porn viewing, but and so we want to work on that, but let's talk about what you do like sexually.
Mm,
What do you want? Are you
mm,
getting that? Is this so what are those sides of the coin, to
mm,
encourage the person to claim their birthright as a sexual being,
mm-hmm.
because there's nothing to be ashamed about who you are authentically sexually. It's nobody else's business who you are. It's not the government's or the churches or your spouse or your family
Mm,
to tell you how
mm,
you should be sexually. That's you.
mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
are the one who says, this is who I am. And if you're not
Right,
clear, then
right.
you have a right to explore and get educated and learn more about that and be
Mm-hmm.
curious about it. That's natural. That's normal. This is your birthright. You were born
Mm,
this way,
mm-hmm.
however it is. And that can be, like I said, we talked earlier about this pantheon of sexual interests and explorations that are going on now that are way beyond the pale of 50 years ago of what sexuality was thought of. So sexuality is really emerging and being shown to be this vast territory that people can
Mm,
and are going out and exploring and are finding the treasures and the riches and the all the amazing epic journeys they can take sexually are starting to be understood, and people are starting to explore that. And this is a wonderful and amazing era to be able to be a sexual being in. But we are in such a mess about how we've treated it in the past that this emerging sexuality in a way is in its adolescent stage, I would say. So it's very reckless, irresponsible, uneducated, and at times even harmful or damaging to someone who doesn't understand this, how to do that. We are still greenhorns kind of in understanding. So how do we then embrace our sexuality and get to be who we are sexually? And the key is to integrate it into the rest of your life in a way that is in integrity with your values, agreements, responsibilities, and relationships. So this is what sexual integration therapy is, to help someone both claim and be empowered, understand they have a right to negotiate for what they want in their relationships around their sexuality, and that this is also going to require the healing of all the ways that person has been shamed, terrorized, or traumatized about their sexuality, usually as children growing up. This is where most of our problems come from, is as children, we took on and internalized these stories of, oh, good boys don't do that. And, little girls should be, proper, and, all that. In other words, you never show your sexuality, and you do not pay attention to your body, and your body is corrupt, and don't touch yourself. I mean, it's just, we are flooded with messages that we carry that are embodied, that we literally can prevent the embodiment of our sexuality, that it is so locked us down physically that we are awkward and clumsy in our efforts and gestures of our eros, because we still have so much tangled up in our psyches, that the moment we're getting turned on is the moment all these other things are getting activated, all our fears, our shames, our secrecy, need, afraid of being uncovered or discovered, and all of that. I have a name for an alternative to the sex porn addiction diagnosis, what I call sexual authenticity disorder. And this is the fear of revealing, or others, let's call it an extreme fear of revealing or others discovering the true depths, nature, style, and frequency of your authentic sexuality. And
well,
this is, go ahead.
I was going to say, isn't the first step really kind of getting comfortable with it yourself? Like, if you're not even feeling comfortable with yourself, you're not going to be wanting to share it with anybody else. And so even knowing fully what or why certain things are, arousing to you, like, that's kind of part of the journey too. You really gotta, because a lot of people have this almost don't even want to like admit certain things. I mean, they're doing the behavior and then why did I spend 3 hours doing that, with the porn or whatever. So it's kind of like, how do you, first of all, get comfortable with it yourself before you can even share, right?
It all starts with the self, on this journey into the claiming your birthright as an authentic sexual being. And I have the 5 keys to integrating your sexuality into your everyday life. And this is the first one. I just call it sexual authenticity. So this means that, one, you have a birthright to your sexuality. And that means also you have a right to explore. If you haven't had an opportunity up to this point to like I said, we have a total lack of sex education in our curriculum. We don't teach our children anything of value really about how to understand their sexuality as it starts to emerge, and at appropriate pace and time when more detail might be revealed, I think. But yeah, so the personal, where if I work with a person, that's the start, is well, actually the start is first, what's your intention? You know,
Mm,
that's the place of, oh, I want to get honest about my sexuality. Say, great. Okay, so what's the parts that aren't honest? You know,
mm,
where are we at? Where are you at now in that place? And what is your sexuality? So, you know, that first you want to have the person understand, either they know, yeah, I'm a dominant erotic sadist. You know, I mean, they've really got it detailed and refined
mm,
down to this, or I'm into sacred sexuality, or whatever their motif might be. Either, and many people know this part of themselves, and this is a distinct part of the sexual, of the psyche, of our
mm,
individual psychological structure. The sexual, what I call the sexual persona, is
mm,
its own. Uh, it's a persona because it has everything of a person. You know, it can embody and it can talk and move and gesture and you know, understand what it wants.
mm,
I mean, this is a
mhm,
whole shift of a distinct part of us uh, into which is mostly has been separate and unconscious and secret. So we don't know how, it's not integrated into our
mm,
life.
mhm.
It's operating on its own, kind of, you know, on its own little world that it is
Well,
not been allowed to come out in a way. You know, it's been,
yeah. I mean, aren't some people more, I mean, obviously, I know the answer to this, so it's not maybe helpful to ask, but I would say there's a range of how much people embody or are integrated with what their current, sexual interests and arousal and persona, right? I mean, some of us had maybe less challenging upbringing such that they weren't shamed for caught masturbating, blah, 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 different things like that. And we're able to, like, oh, this is what I like. This is what I feel comfortable with. And I've shared some of these things with my partner, and they know that, and we play with these elements. So it's kind of, some people have more ease around this, and some of us unfortunately don't. And it's very, very compartmentalized, right? I mean, it just, obviously, if somebody's coming for support, they're really not feeling integrated. Probably they're feeling, really uncomfortable and maybe burdened by um, how to be themselves, right?
yeah, it's usually people don't come to me until they're in some sort of crisis. I mean, it's gotten to the point where
Right.
I've got to do something finally, which
Yeah.
is wonderful, because this is exactly, I think, how the soul operates. We resist and avoid, and but eventually, uh, on the human journey, we get to look in the mirror or face those things we're avoiding. I think Jung said something like, "We meet our fate on the path we took to avoid it." And so,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
we are in this kind of funny drama of our lives that we're working
Hmm.
to cover up, hide, you know, keep in this. In particular, we're talking about sexuality, and um, that doesn't work. You know,
Yeah.
it's not fulfilling. But we're not getting to the depths and the riches that our sexuality can offer us, and we're in this state of psychological fear and terror of
Mm,
being busted or caught, or others discovering, and there's absolutely no reason that should be the case. You know, our sexuality is a gift, and it's a gift to our
mm,
partners, you know, when we can
mm,
claim it and own it.
hmm.
But on that journey of the five keys, this is a, a lot of things are have to go into getting integrated, getting accepting our
Hmm.
sexuality, you know, and so, like I said, one is to empower the sexual truth. Yes, I am this, and yeah, you get to be that, and you get to talk to your partner about how are we going to accommodate my sexuality as I want to accommodate your sexuality. Let's talk about that. How can we both
Mm,
get
hmm.
uh, respect each other's sexual truth and encourage it and bless it? And uh, now this can lead to people finding out, oh, we're in an erotic mismatch. Then you have to, okay, but let's
Hmm.
accept
Hmm.
that, rather than otherwise, it's, since, you know, one person's hiding and sneaking, and you know, it's a question that needs to be addressed, will be addressed one way or another, usually in
Mm,
relationships.
hmm.
except in these very repressed situations where unfortunately where people will take it to the grave and they've never gotten to share their truth. And that's such a tragedy. I mean, this whole thing is such a tragedy over the simple fact that we're afraid to be honest about our sexuality, you know, and learn how to communicate it. So, you know, that's number 2 on the 5 is sexual honesty. And this is like, once you know what, yeah, this is what I like, what I want, and yeah, I get it. I have a right to have that included along with all the other things that I'm interested in my life. You know, this gets now to be a part of my life, you know, to get them to that point where they are, yeah, next relationship or in this one, I'm going to take it to the step 2, which is sexual honesty. So yeah, so now I'm going to learn, how do I communicate this to my partners or my future partners? You know, what do I want to say? How do I just tell this and be honest and be enthusiastic and excited, you know, about what you really like, and also that by that honesty, do you then find that, oh, you're talking to someone you're kind of interested in, you find out, oh, they're not interested. If you did mention, oh, by the way, and you should mention, I would take it to the first date, like, you know,
Wow.
oh, you've talked about oh, what's your spiritual ideas, and oh, what kind of art do you like, and music, and oh, so I'm into kink in terms of sexuality. I'd like to talk about that. How about you? You know, and if they're going, oh my God, no, that's horrible. Well, good. I'm glad I asked, because, you know, this obvious, why go months down the road
it's true.
before you actually say why is that the last thing on your list? You know, I mean, you've talked about all kinds of things maybe with someone, you know, and this is the problem in our culture. It's sex has been you know, the bastard of human personality for thousands of years. You know, it's never been welcome to the table, and to be part of intellect, creativity, spirit, and emotion are all like, oh, those are great things to talk about. We should be. I want to know all about those parts of you. You know, but sexuality is the the outlier. You know, we've left it out.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I like that, because I think people do sometimes, you know, one of my mentors, Dr. Susan Campbell, wrote a book called Truth in Dating. And it's really about, you know, you might as well be authentic from the get-go and be honest, be true to yourself, because otherwise you're going to meet somebody and then eventually you can't keep up the facade, you know, of who I am and who you might be. And then, you know, we let our guard down and we're more relaxed. And then we really, you know, that's when intimacy starts, you know, somewhere down the track. Might as well talk about this much sooner. And even something, not just about one's, you know, sexual interest, you know, specifics in terms of fantasy and whatnot, but even like one's level of desire. I mean, you know, there's the whole range of asexual to very sexual. I don't know the terminology, you probably do, but it's like some of us, you know, at different ages, it's like, that's not that important to us anymore. At some people, it's like, oh, still very important to us. And it's like, let's start from the beginning. You know, are we aligned here? Do we want the same things in relationship with each other?
Yeah, and you can only do your best. I mean, you know, the people will still wind up in different phases. I mean, even if you start in alignment, it's still possible that for a physical reason or other situations, one kind of shifts or changes, and that's another part of being human, and learning how to love yourself and your partner, and allowing this their growth, their thing. But that doesn't mean you have to give up your own desire or style, you know. And this is where that needs to be brought in the conversation if that happens in the relationship of, oh, I see you're leaving this realm of your sexuality or our sexuality. Well, mine is still going on, so you can't just leave without. We have to go. How is this going to work for me? And have that conversation and find a way through that conversation. If you open, you can find ways to. If the love wants the relationship to hold together, you know, you find ways to respect and support partnership both
Yeah.
ways to understand, oh,
Navigate
my
those
doing this
changes.
doesn't
Yeah.
mean that they just now can't. Sorry, I
Right.
mean, this is unfortunately the situation in many relationships is the person with the least desire dictates how much sex goes on in the relationship. And people put up with that, live with that, you know,
Yeah,
the
right. One
party
person
who's
wants to be celibate, and then now suddenly, oh, we're not having sex anymore. It's like, wait a second, how is that fair?
exactly, but we don't. I think so many people don't understand that. Oh, they have. They feel, oh, this is, well, I'm married, and this is what happened, and so I vowed to be faithful, and they take it on that way. But again, that's a facade, because that only in most cases puts their sexuality into the shadow realm, you know, into the secrecy realm, where they would be likely to that sexual persona is didn't go, oh, okay, no, it's still on and
It's still
switched
alive,
on,
it's
and
still activating, it
yeah,
still wants
it's gonna
expression. Yeah.
find a way either to exercise it or to drive it into other behaviors, you know, like overeating or smoking or drinking or Facebook, and, you know, just digital addiction or
Right.
compulsion.
I don't know if you know this, there was something I heard, there was an ad campaign quite a long time ago. Grab a date, not a plate. Did you ever hear that before? It's about
No.
how if people were more sexually expressed, we wouldn't be overeating as much. Like we would get pleasure from each other. And like, anyway, I gotta look this up, because I remember hearing about that, and I haven't found the reference to that. But you know, there was a time when, like, yeah, imagine the pleasure that our bodies can enjoy. And when that's thwarted, then what other behaviors do we choose that aren't really meeting the needs directly? And, you know, the compulsions start with drinking, or like you said, video, whatever, all kinds of things.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's very complex territory, but it's not impossible to maneuver to embrace your sexuality. You know, it does take some work, but the cost of not doing so is, you know, there's no way it's any comparison. You know, the benefit from claiming your authentic sexuality versus leading a secret sex life. You know, there's I've been able to do this for almost 25 years now, to live. I'm totally out, you know, as who I am sexually, and totally right out front with anybody I'm going to date or partner with. And it's been a miracle to live as a fully sexual being, and all the rest of my being, you know, and we live in a, you know, one of the principles I talk about in the 5 keys is, the last one is paradox. And this is the conundrum many people get to when they are getting to the stage where they want to work with me, is that they are on the cusp of the paradox, and they're fighting this battle between the part of them that knows what it desires, and the parts of them that says no, and have the power to keep them from going further into learning more and exploring more. And it's shut, you know, they're stuck right at that the gateway, literally. And what is going on there in this monotheistic cultures we are in, the conversation is shaped as life is right or wrong, black or white, good or evil. And so much of that kind of duality is put many of our aspects of who we are onto the dark side, the evil side, the uncivilized side, all of this. So sexuality and our bodies have traditionally been put on the corrupt side of the coin, and we grow up believing that, oh, if I want to be a good person in the world, if I want to be a good parent and be a responsible citizen and be honorable and respectable, I can't be into kinky sex and be really a nasty, slutty girl out there. And so this is what stops many people from uh, moving forward comfortably into their authentic sexualities, because they're terrified that they're going to go to hell, that they're going to be condemned, that they're going to be ruined. I mean, even though intellectually they know this, but this is more in the unconscious and the undercurrents of things that are mixing in just to their whole embodiment of when they want to feel pleasure, they're starting to also feel icky and a little disgusted. Because these things are still tangled up in the psyche, and they're also tangled up in the body. So our embodiment of our eros is clumsy and awkward and stuck in many ways. So a lot of the work is also at the body level. But this idea of paradox, it's important for people to realize it's an and, not an or. I'm a very sexual being, and I'm a good citizen in the world, and a good father, and a good partner, and all those things. One doesn't cancel the other out. And so once people understand that, oh, it's both, I can be both, I am both. Just the truth is, no, I really am both. And okay, I see it's a paradox. It is it's more like yin and yang than either or. It is both are integral components of the whole. And this is what we learn to integrate, is bringing those two together in a way that's in balance. And this is what I talk about with in a way that's in integrity with your values, agreements, responsibilities, and relationships. That's integrated, and that you've learned to be honest in your communication about it, and understand, I get to negotiate. I don't have to just put it away and stop and such. I get to include it in what I want when I talk about wanting to be in a relationship with someone.
Right. And I mean, it's still, hearing you say that, I'm imagining people might be listening and saying something like, well, I still get to be private about it, don't I? And of course you do. It's more about a choice of who you, maybe just with your intimate partner or partners, we're not talking about broadcasting. Oh, I'm into this. It's like that. Have at it.
So that's the other side
enjoy, but
good point, because that's another dimension of the second key of sexual honesty, is you have a total right to privacy, who you reveal this truth of yourself to. It's nobody else's business. If you don't want, if you're not sharing it with them, it's none of their business. And so it isn't meaning. Once you become sexual honesty, doesn't mean like you're just telling everybody and anyone and anybody asks, and you have no boundaries. No, it is. Your sexual honesty is your right to have boundaries around, who is privy to not only sex, anything really, but in this regard, sexually, it is.
Well, who you share with, and then who you actually even choose to maybe express it with, right? Those could be two different, sets of people, obviously, whatever, obviously, if you're going to share it with somebody, you'd share, what is true for you. But I think that we still get that choice, really, and how we want to share it, who we want to share it with. Yeah.
Well, maybe that's a good place to pause.
Yeah, sounds good. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I like that there was more back and forth, I think. Some of the things I said maybe weren't that useful, but I wanted to kind of, when some question would come up for me, I wanted to kind of imagine somebody coming in and like, oh, they might ask this, or they might think this. So I don't know. So we'll listen and see what it sounds like.
Okay. I think you're doing great, and I think we're learning kind of as we go along, and I think that the only way to learn is just to do, and we'll then see how to adjust it, rather than, we need to learn all the way to do it before we begin. I think we're moving along, I think, pretty good, and so I'm going to turn the recording off here.
Oh yeah. Okay, sure. Yeah.
Of it. And